As rumors continue to swarm that the Raptors may be one of the leading candidates to land Kevin Durant through a trade, NBA media has sounded off against the Raptors and have made some outlandish and outrageous claims against the city of Toronto. So in this video, we're going to discuss exactly why the NBA does not want the Raptors to land Kevin Durant in a trade. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with Amateur Hour Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. On this channel, I give you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news, and I'm going to be doing it all throughout the offseason. So if you like what you see from today's video, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel to keep up to date with all those great videos. And if you find yourself enjoying this video along the way, then be sure to drop a like to help support the channel. Let's get to 250 likes on today's video. We can absolutely do it. But the topic of today's video, the NBA does not want the Raptors to trade for Kevin Durant. I mean, we've seen so much on NBA media throughout the years, especially in recent times, and especially over the last few days. The Raptors have kind of heated up in these Kevin Durant discussions. The Raptors went from a team where I was like, okay, you know, they have the assets to maybe get this trade done, to one of the leading candidates. You know, Adrian Wojnarowski, many other reporters have suggested the Raptors are firmly within these discussions, and they could be the real wild card in actually landing Kevin Durant in these discussions. I went into great depth yesterday about the possible trade scenarios involving that if you want to go check it out. But today, we're kind of looking at the reactions from NBA media, specifically American NBA media. I mean, you know, NBA media in general just absolutely hates the Toronto Raptors. They put no respect whatsoever on the Toronto Raptors. And the latest clip from Chris Broussard really showcases that.
Great city, but Twan, you know, it's not America, and you feel it when you're there. I'm telling you, especially as an African American, it's a different situation than African Americans are used to being in. And I've talked to people in that organization pre-Ujiri about, can they keep African American superstars there?
So for starters, you know, I don't want to go hugely into the race things that he brought up, but essentially he brought up that living in Toronto is different for African Americans. Living in Toronto is different. Why is it different? What about Toronto makes it different? Is he alluding to a possible, like, racial profile within Toronto? I mean, I'm not going to say Toronto is completely exempt from that, but it is certainly no worse than any other major city in America, and all of that needs fixing whatsoever. But to single out Toronto in that discussion is just completely outrageous. And like, how somebody could sit and get paid to be on national television to talk about things like this, like, how could he actually say these things and believe these things? I mean, a simple Google search would tell you, as far as, you know, again, he was talking about the population of black people in Toronto not being as significant as in other places, only 8% in Toronto. Well, the leading candidate to land Kevin Durant in a trade is Phoenix. And just quickly looking it up, Toronto, at about 8.5% of the population being black. For Phoenix, it's 7%. So according to Chris Broussard here, if Toronto should be out of the discussion as a result of the population here, well, then Phoenix are also not going to be involved in this discussion. In fact, we can also rule out San Francisco. We can rule out the Golden State Warriors as well. Just a completely outrageous take. But let's go beyond that. Let's go just a little bit beyond just the race things that he was talking about, because those are so irrelevant to this discussion. I mean, obviously, very relevant in the real world, but not relevant in the Kevin Durant trade rumors. What he talked about against the Raptors in this video, and also the full segment, which I also checked out. He talked about people not wanting to play in Toronto in general, and actually referenced the pre-Ujiri era, the pre-Masai Ujiri era. Masai Ujiri has been here for 9 years. The Raptors made the playoffs 8 times in those 9 years. The one time they didn't make the playoffs, they were so bad they ended up getting Scotty Barnes, who is going to carry us for the next generation of talent. Nonetheless, we're referencing a team from 10 years ago. Like, things change a lot in the world, especially in the basketball landscape, in that amount of time. And actually, the players that he referenced specifically within this segment were Antonio Davis and Tracy McGrady. Oh my goodness. Antonio Davis, who left the Raptors in 2003. 2003, like that long ago since he left the Raptors. And he didn't leave the Raptors because he didn't like Toronto. He preferred to have his children within the American education system. I mean, I don't really understand that, but it had nothing against the city of Toronto. And by the way, Antonio Davis eventually returned to the Raptors in 2006. And oh, by the way, Antonio Davis's son plays in the Canadian Elite Basketball League. So there's absolutely no animosity against Canada whatsoever from Antonio Davis. And the other player that he referenced, Tracy McGrady, left in 2000, and he left over management problems. And again, it had nothing to do with the city. Now, I'm not going to say there's no player in existence who has left Toronto because they didn't like living in Toronto, they didn't like living in Canada. I'm sure that reigns true for many other cities in the world, but Toronto is not exempt from that. Sure, there are some players who do not like living in Toronto and do not like playing in Toronto. I can 100% see that. But to claim that it's different to live in Toronto, as Chris Broussard mentioned, there is not one specific example that you can find of any player actually saying it's different because they're an African American living in Toronto. That just does not happen. It's completely fabricated. It's completely false. Beyond that, all of the points consistently against the Raptors involving these Kevin Durant discussions, or any discussions in general, but specifically for Kevin Durant, are players didn't like playing there 15 years ago, a long time ago. Fans cheered when Kevin Durant got injured, and that's a thing that I'm sure a lot of people regret. And when I first saw that on television, when it was live, I was like, oh, that's a really bad look for Toronto. But nonetheless, I think something that Kevin Durant can surely overcome. And the third reason why they say that people don't want to go play in Toronto is that it's just not America.
But Twan, it's not America.
There's nothing, no evidence for the basketball. There's no evidence for the team and its management. All it is people just don't like living in Toronto with absolutely no evidence to actually back it up. Some reporters, some of these ESPN reporters or NBA media in general, some of these people are actually just straight up about not liking Canada. Listen to this Stephen A clip after the Raptors won the championship in 2019.
I don't want a champion being in Canada again. The city of Toronto is great, but we know Canada loves its hockey. They had their good moments and all of that stuff, but damn it, I want the NBA champion to be an American team. I'm just going to be clear.
I mean, at this point, it's just straight up xenophobia. There's nothing against the Toronto basketball team, the Raptors, and nothing against management whatsoever. It is just they don't like being in Toronto. They just don't like the fact. You know what? It's not even that. They hate the fact that a Canadian team is thriving in an American-dominated market. They hate the fact that they have to reference the Toronto Raptors as a good basketball team. And I tell you what, right now within these discussions, they hate the fact that they even have to discuss the Toronto Raptors in any sort of capacity on these television shows. But they have to, and they are forced to address the fact that the Raptors have one of, if not the best, trade packages available to get Kevin Durant. Sure, the Heat can give Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. Like, what is that? Nobody's going to pay attention to that. The Raptors can give Trent, Anunoby, and there's a possibility of Siakam getting involved. And sure, the Phoenix Suns have Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton they can offer up. I think that is an offer that very much parallels an offer of Gary Trent Jr. and OG Anunoby. They hate the fact that they have to reference the Raptors are a key player within all of these trade discussions. They hate the fact that they have to suggest this would be a good landing spot from a basketball standpoint for Kevin Durant, because there would be a great opportunity over the course of 4 years to go win a championship playing with Scottie Barnes and potentially also playing with Pascal Siakam. And if they don't want to reference that whatsoever, because they know this is a good basketball destination for Kevin Durant, what they would do instead is they wouldn't even discuss that part. They would only talk about the city that very few people in the entire landscape of the NBA have ever actually voiced their displeasure in playing in. That is the only thing they have against Toronto. It's just them saying all these things to avoid referencing the fact that the Raptors are a great basketball team and one of the most well-run organizations in all of the North American sports. Saying Toronto is not a basketball city is just crazy. I mean, how about Stephen A. Smith from New York? He's a Knicks fan. Are we going to say that New York, it's a basketball town? Nobody cares about the Yankees. I mean, they play baseball. They have their basketball already. I'm sorry, but can a major city not have multiple sports organizations? Like, would we say that about New York? Absolutely not, and nor should we. But we should not say this about Toronto either. Things are different than they were 20 years ago, over 25 years ago when this team was first founded. Sure, it was a hockey city then, but it is no longer just that. It is a city that is diverse, multicultural, multi-sport, and successful, specifically in basketball, among other sports. There is no reason why Kevin Durant would not want to play in Toronto. In fact, there are many occasions in which Kevin Durant has talked highly of the city, of the team, the organization, Toronto management, and whatnot. There is no reason why Kevin Durant would not want to play in the city of Toronto or the country of Canada. If things are beyond that and maybe just doesn't want to play for the team, I mean, ultimately it's a trade, so that doesn't really matter too much. But I have no doubt in my mind KD would buy into playing in Toronto if he was traded. He would buy into the team, he would buy into the city, he would buy into the country. We support our players. Kawhi Leonard was here for 1 year, and he is idolized to this day still by Toronto sports fans, and for very good reason. Just imagine the treatment Kevin Durant could get if he's here for 4 years and he ends up winning possibly a championship with the Toronto Raptors. Like, idolized, just completely idolized, a legend of the Raptors. For a player who doesn't really have a place overall in the NBA, like, wait, which fan base is going to own KD once he retires? It's not going to be OKC. I don't think it's going to be Golden State, and it's definitely not going to be the Brooklyn Nets. A great opportunity for Kevin Durant arises. But overall, I mean, it'll be really fun to get Kevin Durant in a trade just because it would make the Toronto basketball team, the Raptors, so much better. But you know what might be even better about this trade? The fact that American media would have to treat us with more respect. They would have to, because the Raptors undoubtedly would be successful. I'm not saying they would guaranteed win a championship, but they would definitely have success with Kevin Durant on the team. They would have to address that. The Raptors would go from a handful of nationally televised games to like 35, 40 nationally televised games. And all these people who hate Toronto so much are going to have to get their passports ready because they're going to have to travel to Toronto a lot more often to cover these games. And I think that is even sweeter than actually watching Kevin Durant play for the Raptors, as sweet as that may be. So what's your take on American media and their absolute hate and disgust for the city of Toronto? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please be sure to drop a like on the video. Drop a like if you love the city of Toronto and you love the country of Canada. Obviously, it has its flaws. A lot of other places do as well, but it's important to address those flaws. It's also okay to celebrate and be proud of where you live, and that's what I'm going to go with for this video. Also, be sure to subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports for the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. Going to be following this Kevin Durant saga as it unfolds, as well as many other things, especially the Raptors Summer League and possible other trade rumors. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. This video I recorded yesterday. I'm hoping we're at 10K subs by now. If we are, super grateful, guys. Like, unbelievable achievement. When I started making YouTube videos, really, I didn't think I'd ever get to this point. So the fact that I'm here, still pushing on, is amazing. So thank you so much. I mean, I could talk like for so long about how grateful I am, but truly am super appreciative of this amazing, outstanding community. Cannot say thank you enough. Hope you guys stick around for more videos in the future. I'll see you again next time for another video.